Hello, it's Deborah from the attic, and I have the latest Simon Says stamp card kit to share with you. Let me just remove this. This is a very useful paper bag. I always keep these because I use them when I'm making journals, so they're never wasted. This is such a fun kit. It's made me giggle quite a lot. It's really sweet. Let me show you the things that will otherwise blind you under the cameras first, so I can move on. Now there are 2 pages of these Doodlebug stickers, and you can tell the theme is Irish. So there's lots of these, lots of leprechauns, lots of pots of gold, shamrocks, all sorts of fun things to do with those stickers. And then there is a very lovely stamp set. This is called Amazing, and there's lots of opportunities for layering up stamps here. There's some very nice sentiments. I really like the way that these are interchangeable. So for example, everyone agreed, you're amazing. You could tie those 2 together, and there's lots of other examples of that which we may explore when we make our cards. There are 3 envelopes. One is gold. I love that gold. Isn't that just a beautiful connection with the Irish stamp as well, and the Irish little stickers. So there's a gold envelope which is sort of pearlised, and then there are 2 plain white envelopes. There is the lollipop, and this time it's a green lollipop. Everything ties in together. There's a hybrid little ink pad. This is called Lucky. I'm guessing that's going to be green. And then there are the most amazing little embellishments in this bag. These are dimensional, so there are some gold stars, there's some shamrocks, and there are some dimensional little discs. And these look really good fun, really good fun. This is the thing that made me laugh the most. This is an Irish llama. I don't know if such a thing exists. It's great fun. So, and there's also some nice little sentiments. Happy St. Patrick's Day, wishing you a llama luck. So I'm going to have some fun playing with that stamp, I think. And the cardstock begins with this rather nice cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and it's called Really Rainbow Scallops, and it's a 6x6 paper pack. There are, as always, lots of sheets of cardstock in colours that complement the paper pack. Very colourful, very vibrant, very much all about spring. So let's see what we can make with this kit. For my first card, I've cut down some of the base cardstock from the kit to make a top folding card, and now I'm going to cut the image of all of the stickers from the reverse of the sticker packaging. I've got my embossing ink, and I've got one of the sentiments from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp this out onto some of the green cardstock, and I'm going to add some white embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set this. There it is, all nicely heat set and dried off. Now for my panel, I could attach it to my yellow card like this, with the little banner with the sentiment across the bottom, but I decided it would be cuter to make this a smaller card. So this is half a standard size card. All I'm going to do is glue my panel with all of the stickers on it onto my base card. Then I'm going to take my green panel and I'm going to just mark with a pencil what I need to cut off so that I can make that central. So I'm going to snip those ends off. I'm not going to add any dimension to this by adding foam. I'm just going to take my tape runner, my glue tape runner, and I'm going to stick this in place round about there. I've got a tiny little pencil mark which I'm going to erase from my green banner, and with everything stuck down I'm going to cut off the excess that I don't need. I'm going to leave myself a nice little yellow border to frame my card design. I've got 2 pieces of yellow card left over which I can use for another project, and now I want to add some extra elements to my card. So to complete it, I'm adding 4 gold stars with a spot of glue underneath them, and then the gold star just pressed onto the glue. And that's card 1 complete. For card 2, I'm using a white base card which I've cut down so it will fit onto a piece of green top folding card. I want to add a splash of colour across the central bottom part of this card, and I'm using two different colours of ink to achieve this. I've got an orange ink, and you can see me knocking off the first impression there, and a yellow ink pad as well. I've got the two smallest dots on either end of my acrylic rod, and I'll provide a link to this below the video, and I'm adding little green dots using the ink pad from the kit. I'm using the same ink pad to go around the outside of my base card. Now this will look very scruffy until you see everything complete, but that has given me a nice border, and when I add the top card you can see that the green of the dots therefore matches the outside green of the card. I'm going to choose a couple of elements to add to this card. The first is the picture of the little girl with the dog, and then I'm going to add a selection of some of the hearts to the card from the sticker set to give it an extra little pop of colour. I'm going to complete the card with a sentiment in plain black ink, and this is the sentiment from the stamp set which reads, "I'm so glad you're my friend," and I think that's a lovely way to complete the card of a girl with a dog. I'm going to fill in a few little blanks before I stick the whole card together. I'm using a tape runner to glue this into position because I'm fairly confident I can get this straight and not do it on the wonk. And that's my card complete. For card 3, I'm inking up the sentiment in black, and I'm going to add this at the bottom 1/3 of the card. I'm leaving myself plenty of space above it because I want to add the unicorn. I think the combination of unicorn sticker and this sentiment are, well, amazing. They work together really nicely. All of this is going to be mounted onto a piece of purple top folding card with, of course, some extra little stickers as well. The sticker set is very versatile because you've got elements in there that can act as the main focus for your card, and then there are additional little tiny things like these hearts that you can add all over the card just to add a little pop of colour if you want to make something stand out a little bit more. And there's lots of golds in there as well, so you can really make your cards shimmer. For card 4, I've taken my yellow ink pad again and one of the stamps. Now this is the one that has all the pieces radiating out from the centre, and I've stamped them all over a piece of plain white card, and now I'm taking one of the solid circles, and I've got my page there just to protect my desk because I'm going slightly off the edge of the card, and I'm going to add these solid dots right in the middle of each of those pinwheel stamps. That design is going to be stuck onto a piece of orange top folding card, and I've got an ink pad that is a very similar orange to the orange base card, and I'm going to use that to pull everything together by stamping in the middle of one of the dots the sentiment that says, "I believe in you." And I don't think that card needs anything else. I think that's a nice simple sentiment. For card 5, I'm using the Happy St. Patrick's Day stamp and the embossing ink to add a watermark onto the front of this green side folding card. I'm going to cover it all over, but I'm going to hold it up and maybe you can see the effect that it has. Now this is the border from the side of the sticker pack, and I've cut it off, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to add a little fishtail to the left hand side of this, and then I'm going to stick it down on my card. And this is also a sticker as well, of course, so you can make plenty of use of the side borders on each of the little sticker cards. Now I've got to decide who is going to sit on that line. It's going to be this little character with his green hat and I think a fiddle, and I'm going to give him a girlfriend. And I've cut a fishtail from a piece of black card so that it will match the piece of border above it, and I've stamped and embossed with white embossing powder the phrase that says, "I'm so glad you're my friend." And to finish this card off, I'm going to add one of the little shamrocks. And once that's glued down, my card is complete. This stamp really made me laugh, the llama in the hat, and I've stamped it out several times. I've also stamped out the head because I want to cut out the hat. I'm going to cut that out and reserve it for another project, and I went on to colour the llama just using some coloured pencils, and now I'm going to cut that out as well. He's going to sit on this piece of bright orange top folding card, and I'm going to use the other half of the border from the sticker set so that he has something to stand on. I don't want him to be floating free, and I've cut down the Happy St. Patrick's Day stamp because I found that if you're very careful you can actually cut between the tops and bottoms of the letters, so you can break that shape down because it's quite blocky and it wouldn't fit onto that white and green border that I cut off. So I had to cut it down, and actually I think this is quite a fun result. Now this is a piece of craft foam. This is about 2mm thick, and it's what I use to add dimension to my cards. I used to use foam tape and double-sided tape, but I found that this is much more versatile. It's much easier for me to cover the area exactly as I want it to be covered, and you can cut these little pieces down, and I find it easier to use as well because it's not double-sided. You have to glue everything into position. I find it much easier to work with, so you don't get things stuck to your fingers, and you don't find yourself waking up in the middle of the night with foam pads in your hair. Maybe that's just me. So that's my little llama, all 2mm depth of him, and I find it a good way to hold things into position while you want them to glue down is to put one of your stamping blocks on top of the item. I've got 3 of the little clouds, and I'm going to put them all around his head. I think that is a really jolly card. For the next card, I've stamped up the phrase that says "so very proud of you," and I'm embossing this with white embossing powder. I've got a pink top folding card, and I've cut down a piece of paper from the card kit, or the paper kit, the 6x6 kit, and you can see how everything is going to layer up. Now I've used my craft foam again to back the sentiment, and I'm adding some glue over the back of this, and I'm going to stick this down directly onto my base card. And again, to hold it into position I will use my stamp block, but first of all I'm going to add a couple of little ladybirds to add a little pop of colour. My card is finished, and that's a really nice, easy, quick way to make a card using any of the sentiments from the stamp set. For card 8 I've got one of the round stamps from the set, and I'm inking this up with a really lovely soft pink ink. So I'm going to stamp this onto the lovely lemon coloured papers from the 6x6 pack, and to the centre of those I'm going to add one of the stamps that looks as if it's a bundle of seeds into the middle of those in a slightly darker ink. This is a violet colour. I'm going to cut those out, and although I'm only cutting out 3 here that you can see, I will add to these. This is a lovely piece of blue paper, and I've mounted this onto a piece of purple top folding card, and you can see that I've stuck down those little circles that I've cut out. I've also inked up and stamped "You're fantastic, amazing and incredible," and I've done that onto yellow card, and I've cut it with a little fishtail, and now I'm mounting it onto purple card, and I'm going to cut out a very thin border around the outside of this sentiment, and that will help the words pop. I'm going to glue it onto the card with another piece of my craft foam, and this will help it stand out a little bit more, and I've cut that down with another little fishtail as well, as you can see on the left hand side of the banner. I'm going to glue everything down into position, and I'm going to position the sentiment in such a way that the purple edge on the right hand side just blocks right up to the yellow edge, so it looks as if it's all bordered with purple. Now for card 9 we're going to take one of the stamps and repeat stamp it onto a piece of the pink paper which I've cut down from one of the pieces in the paper pack. I really like this, it's such a positive sentiment, you're doing a fantastic job. So that's all been repeat stamped down the centre of that piece of pink paper, and now I've got a piece of pink top folding card. Everything's very pink at the moment, and I've got a sort of a purple violet ink which I'm using to stamp onto the bottom of this card. I'm stamping just some of these little pinwheels, and I want to make sure that they will pop out from underneath the sentiment block. I'm going around the outside of this card with 2 thin black lines because that will help pull everything together. I've used black ink for my words, and now I want to use black ink to go around the outside of the card. It gives the whole design a little bit of cohesion. I'm going to glue my sentiments directly onto the card. You could of course back this with craft foam, but because we'd done that on a couple of cards earlier, I thought we would just stick this one straight down. Anything that's left hanging over the top and the bottom edge can simply be cut away. And when that's all tidied up, my card is complete. For our final card, we're going to use a white top folding card, and I'm going to add the sentiment first in black ink right on the bottom right hand side of this card. And then we're going to get busy with those 2 pieces of paper from the paper pack. This is the light and the dark green, and I've got my ruler here because it's going to help me rip these and create a white line at the bottom. You see where I'm ripping away there? On the right hand side of that, or the bottom of that, there's that lovely rip line. And there's a very ripped line. So I'm going to do 3 each of these, and they're about maybe 3/4 of an inch, maybe half an inch wide, each of these strips. When I have the 6 strips, I'm just going to make sure that I have the right number. I don't want to get halfway through and then find I have to stop and rip another piece of paper. So I'm just roughly positioning these to make sure they will stretch all the way down to the bottom of the card. And they do, so I can start with the gluing. So we're going to start gluing at the bottom of the card, and I know that I've got enough of these that I can reach all the way up to the top of the card, so I know that I can start pretty close to my sentiment. This is good fun, and this is a really quick card. While I get my other little pieces of paper ready, I'm using my stamp block again just to help everything stick down onto my card well. And I'll continue to use the block as I add the strips of paper. Using your block in this way is like having an extra hand. When they're all glued down in place, I can chop off the excess and neaten the card up. And then I'm going to pull back into play the little hat. Do you remember earlier on I stamped out a number of little hats? I wasn't sure how many I was going to use. In the end I've decided that I'm going to use 1. And here it is. I've coloured it up using my coloured pencils, and I'm going to glue that into position. This is where it came from here, just as a reminder. I'm going to glue that into position on the bottom of the card, quite close to the sentiment. I think that's a very jolly little hat. I really, really did like that on top of the llama. I like the llama too. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I'm going to leave you with some close-ups of all of the cards that we've made today and a little bit of music. And until we meet again, take care.